Saludos. This is the last panel of the web series Conversations Among X, powered by HITN. And who is HITN? Well, HITN is America's leading Spanish language non-commercial television network, servicing over 35 million households in the United States and Puerto Rico, with high-quality educational and entertaining content. Tu Cuentas. CINE Youth Fest is a platform powered by HITN and is bringing together a community of storytellers who are paving the way to a more inclusive industry on and off the screen. Today's panel is titled Tears, Fears, and Laughter: Overcoming Obstacles and Lessons Learned. And what are we going to chat about? Well, to begin with, I am a Puerto Rican artist who grew up in the movies, mostly black and white movies. And I have great respect for all the panelists, among other reasons, because filmmaking is an art, but it is also an industry, a costly one even today. And it takes a great deal of courage and skills, especially for Latinx young filmmakers to achieve their goals. So much more now in these catastrophic times of racial, gender, and economic inequality, climate, not change, but crime, everlasting pandemic, migratory harassment, and growing political and economic polarization. Tears, fears, and laughter shine through your work as it should, and we are here to recognize and reward it. You open up our vision, intellect, and hearts to build a better world than the one we inherited. Welcome. Bienvenidos todos. I must say that the response to our call was so good that more than 400 films were submitted and 120 made the run for the big prize. You can go and watch the finalists on cineyouth.org. You can also vote for your favorite movie. The award ceremony will be on Sunday, October the 24th, and it will be shown on HITN Go, cineyouthfest.org, and Cine Youth Fest YouTube channel. Please stay tuned for a further date when the award show will be shown on HITN, and we will keep you posted on all our platforms. But before we proceed, of course, let us see the short video that introduces me. For those who don't know me, I haven't seen it, so I guess it doesn't say that I have been an artist for at least 100 years. So let us proceed.
Antonio Martorell has his art workshop in La Playa de Ponce, where he lives and works. He has been an artist in residence for more than 25 years at the University of Puerto Rico in Calley. He keeps busy at painting, drawing, installation and performance art, graphics, set and costume design, theater, films, TV, radio, writing for the press, and has published 3 books. He is the host of the WYPR TV program En la Punta de la Lengua. This television series has won 5 Emmy Awards. For more than 3 decades, has been a co-host with Rosa Luisa Marquez in the radio program 1, 2, 3 Probando on Radio Universidad de Puerto Rico. His work has been exhibited and awarded in and out of the country and in private and public collections.
And it's now time to introduce our wonderful panelists, and we'll begin with NEYDA Martínez.
NEYDA Martínez Sierra is an associate professor at the School of Media Studies, the New School, and an independent producer and strategic consultant with over 20 years of experience. Her documentary credits include Lucky and Decade of Fire. Presently, she is producing the feature documentaries Bartolo and A Chasm in Chinatown. For the American documentary producer of the acclaimed nonfiction series POV and America Reframed, she has supported the campaigns of more than 90 acclaimed documentaries. Prior to her work in documentary, Martínez worked with leading cultural entities including the Public Theater, El Museo del Barrio, and the Chicago International Art Expo.
NEYDA Martínez, hola. And you know, after having the privilege of dancing salsa with you in New York, you're such a great dancer. Now I can enjoy the films you produce. As a film producer, you have to dance with a team, not just a partner. Has your rhythm and connection to your team benefited from the experience of dancing? I bet. Please tell me briefly.
Absolutely, because when we're birthing our collective art project of this nature, you know, that encompasses storytelling, visual elements, music, dramatic elements, and emotion, it is like a dance. We have to allow for this journey to unfold so that it will land in the heart of the viewer in the most beautiful of ways. So it is absolutely a collaboration, and it is appropriate to call it a dance. Filmmaking is a team sport.
Well, thank you so much, NEYDA. I know from experience dancing with you that being in your team must be wonderful. And now we go on to our next panelist, Alex Ramirez.
Alex Ramirez is an award-winning Mexican-American filmmaker based in San Antonio, Texas. He is a graduate of the University of Texas Pan American with a Bachelor of Arts in Theater. He has worked professionally throughout Texas since 2014 as the head of his own production company, Mala Bruja Pictures. His films have screened both domestically and across the globe. In 2021, his film The Quiet Shore was distributed by Shorts TV. He currently teaches media and film at CINE in San Antonio and serves as a board member of the San Antonio Film Society.
Saludos, Alex. It's great seeing you and seeing your work. And reading your bio, I am aware of your early training in the theater. And I just wonder, why did you switch from theater to film? They are quite different. Please elaborate if you can.
Well, I mean, I always grew up loving the dramatic arts. It's something that I haven't quite put away. During quarantine, I've actually come back and written a little bit for the theater, writing new plays, something that I haven't done in close to a decade. I just love the medium. I love what you can do in film and in theater. I think they always kind of merge and find their ways, you know, into works that are not of, you know, if the theater that I do finds its way into the film I do, and vice versa, you know. So it's something that I just love and always come back to.
Oh, thank you so much. Having worked myself in the theater and films, I just know how you feel, because I feel very much the same. And now our next panelist, BRYAN Cid Borrero.
BRYAN Cid Borrero is a jack of all trades. Actor, musician, singer, composer, writer, spokesperson, and aspiring entrepreneur. In his most recent work, BRYAN makes a guest star appearance as Jesus in the movie Hope, playing in the Caribbean Cinemas theaters in Puerto Rico, and his new music group Perfecto debuted with the music video Estoy Orando in the credits of the film. Some of his best appearances on TV include CBS CSI Miami, Nickelodeon's Big Time Rush, and Netflix Nicky Jam El Ganador, national commercials for McDonald's, Coke, and Sprint, and is currently the face of Freeway Insurance. BRYAN is currently writing his first short film and is about to start an NBA podcast. BRYAN is also into health and wellness, enjoys sports and outdoors activities such as running, playing basketball, and working out.
Brian, de verdad, lo siento. I'm so sorry I missed your appearance as Jesus in the movie Hope, playing now in San Juan. But being as you are, a talented jack of all trades, where, when, and how do you find yourself more at ease in all these trades?
Well, first of all, hi everybody. I'm Brian. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. And I feel like I have a lot of passions, and I'm already doing the things that I feel like I will continue to do for the rest of my life, which are acting, music, being an artist, writing, and also taking care of the financial aspect in my professional life as well. Pursuing an entrepreneur career, which is what I'm doing, where I can make use of whatever money I make in my arts and also invest it in business. So I feel like I'm just going to continue to do what I'm doing. So basically, yeah, same, more of the same things, Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brian, and for the good advice, because actually for most artists, the hardest part is the entrepreneur part. I mean,
Yep.
just making money is not that easy in the arts. And now we're going to meet our next panelist, DANI, ADALIZ, please.
DANI ADALIZ is a biracial Afro-Latina actress, comedian, writer, and director and Moth Story Slam winner. DANI works predominantly in web video and on stage as an actress, comedian, and writer. DANI's credits include BuzzFeed and Me Too. She is also a series regular in the Jenny Lorenzo universe as Fidelia and has performed live storytelling and stand-up comedy and improv. DANI has recently transitioned into directing and producing. She just wrapped on a short film in which she wrote, produced, co-directed, and acted in called Piña Coladas. Piña Coladas has recently been accepted into its first film festival at the Chicago Indie Film Festival as an official selection and the Venice Independent Film Festival.
Bienvenida, Dani. I must say that humor seems to be an essential part of your art. Do you find it serves you well to reach across the screen to the audience?
Like using humor, for sure. I have a stage background, so I'm used to just like being on stage and looking for affirmations in people by making them laugh. Because, you know, my love language is words of affirmation and apparently laughter of affirmation as well. So.
Well, thank you so much, Danny, and welcome you all. This is the final series panel titled Tears, Fears, and Laughter, Overcoming Obstacles and Lessons Learned. Let's go on with our conversation with our panelists. And we have some questions for you all. And we'll begin with NEYDA. Our first question is, obstacles are sometimes seen as frustrating and negative events that constrain our goals. Sometimes they are seen as speed bumps, forcing us to slow down, reflect on what we really want, then move forward towards this goal, even if it is different from what we have first envisioned. Please share an obstacle you have experienced as a creative, what you learned from it, and how you were able to ultimately turn that obstacle to your advantage, if you did. Please, NEYDA.
Thank you so much for this provocative question. Yeah, obstacles absolutely are opportunities for us to connect and channel into the flow and energy of the universe for lessons learned and creative solutions. I find that with obstacles, what helps me most is meditation and also deep consultation with my team, where we're really thinking creatively and create emotional and psychological safety so that everyone can bring their best self, because we're ideating and working together to create the best pathway solution possible out of an obstacle. So one obstacle I faced was, let's see, with Decade of Fire, for example, the last documentary I produced that was on PBS and was the Audience Award winner of 2020, we were denied many funding opportunities, but we got exactly what we needed at the right time. But there was one critical opportunity that we were looking for, which is a forum where we present and we can create partnerships. But since we didn't get that, what I did is that I was proactive in creating my own forum for support. So I partnered up with a local entity that supports artists and creatives. While they didn't give us any money, what they gave us was the space, the catering, and the wine, and the very fancy invitation, and the very fancy penthouse view, but also just their name alone ushered in like a credibility, like this project and this team is going somewhere. And so that I created my own personal pitch forum. We worked as a team to invite the right people in the room to share our work in progress, to give feedback, but also to very honestly and transparently tell them where we were and what we needed, what the obstacles were, and how they could help. And that was pivotal because it showed to the industry and to the people that had funded us that we were committed to the project and had the wherewithal to see it through. And that initiative alone helped me secure 2 significant funders that helped us towards the realization of the film.
Thank you, NEYDA. I know someone said something once that is very true. He said that he learns more from his failures than from his success. And that is, I find that very true. But now, Alex Ramirez, would you kindly answer that question about obstacles?
For sure. So the name of our panel is Tears, Fears, and Laughter. That's absolutely what this story is going to be about that I'm about to tell. So we have a lot of young students here watching. The first feature film that I ever did was in film school. And, you know, in film school, you can learn technique, you can learn, you know, how to move and work the camera. But one thing that, you know, it takes years to learn is how to work with people, how to manage people, and how to create a good atmosphere on a set. And the first film I did, you know, was it was extremely difficult. I think difficult to the point where I would say it's been the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. And it was hard for everyone. And there's a lot of reasons why, mainly because funding didn't come in that we thought would come in. We were under harsh conditions, but also it was kind of the wrong mixture of personalities, I think. And, you know, it really taught me that when you're building a crew and you're putting a cast together, it's important that things gel. You know, it makes things easier. I think 50, well, more than 50, I'd say 70 or 80% is of making sure this goes well is having a good working relationship with people. And I think people get mixed up in, you know, the artistry too much, and they don't think about that. So, you know, simple things like learning your crew's name, saying hi, and, you know, genuinely wanting to work with these people and creating an environment that is empathetic. So I think that would probably be how I turn that obstacle around.
First experiences are very pivotal in the process of learning. You have to deal with new things, new problems, and that's the way it is. That art and life is all the same. And now, please, Bryan C. Borrero, could you kindly answer that question?
Sí, señor. Yes, sir. Of course. Well, I didn't pick one particular obstacle because there's so many. So I just have a list of obstacles that I'm just quickly going to go over. Because for me, 20 was a decade of obstacles. I'm 31, and some wins, some big wins, but it was mostly obstacles. So basically, my biggest one that derailed my career in a big way and held me back a lot, and I learned the most from, I would say it was taking a break from acting to try and get my life together, because my life was a mess and I couldn't focus in any audition or anything. So I think that's very important. Finding somewhere to live. I was homeless at a point. Finding a job, losing my manager, being dropped from both of my agencies, the commercial and the theatrical one, going back to route zero after I was working in Paramount and doing all these big jobs, just losing it all, starting from scratch, living month to month. I'm pretty sure every artist in LA can relate to that, or even New York. Roommate problems, student loan debt, life on your own as a young adult, doubting yourself and if it's worth it to pursue acting, doing many things at the same time, not being organized, falling over and over again, being rejected every day, all that stuff. So for me, I feel like the most important thing, if you want to make it as an artist out here, is basically to have your life together so that you can spend your time working on your craft and improving on things that will get you where you want to be. And also, I've learned how to not procrastinate and always push myself, how to self-motivate myself. I learned that, how to press the reset button so that when you get frustrated because you didn't get this huge callback for this huge role, you just forget about it the next day. You cry that day and then you're good. You forget about it the next day. So I've learned how to do that. And I've also learned how to not be discouraged. And, basically like the book of Ryan Holiday says, the obstacle
Brian, I listen to you.
That's it. That's it. I'm done. The obstacle is the way. I'm done.
I'm very impressed that I'm talking to a survivor. I mean, congratulations, because you've come this far and you go far, no question about it. And now it's the turn for DANI ADALIZ to tell us about her obstacles and how she overcame them.
Well, I have obstacles and I'm currently overcoming them. I feel like life is just a whole thing of obstacles. Yeah, I mean, for me, my latest obstacle has just sort of been like trusting within myself, because I'm also freshly in my 30s, like Brian was saying, and wow, does that really open up your world? Just like not caring about what other people think about you or your art, or just like trusting that you're doing the right thing and you're doing the thing that you love, right? That in itself was just an obstacle for me. I joke because my dad's a Virgo, and for those of you who know astrology, that's usually just like a person that needs things by the book and like can't have life unscripted. And I'm just like all over the place. So a lot of that anxiety was like about like making sure my dad would still respect me as a person if I continue to do art. But luckily he always has. And that was just an anxiety that was in my head that didn't need to exist. My latest obstacle right now is I dropped my agent to get a better one. And that was really hard because she was sending me out about 4 times a week, which was too much for me. And it was all just kind of like either one really good project and then like a bunch of other things. And then it was like crazy if I couldn't make it, and like I couldn't have time for myself to kind of like work out and sit with my piece or even create the projects that I'm creating. And now I'm just sort of like sitting, and opportunities have magically sort of opened up for me in that obstacle. So I'm currently in the overcoming stage, and I think it's going to work out, guys. I think it's going to be okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I trust that, because with your attitude and your beautiful smile, I'm sure you can overcome anything. And now we go on to our next question. Please tell us about who or what has been your greatest inspiration in your choices about how you react to adversity, and how this person or thing influence your journey as a creative. And again, go back to NEYDA Martínez. Please elaborate.
So as a good Jibarita Boricua, everything is inspired by my parents. They were so brilliant and so humble and so kind. They were on the right side of social justice, and they were very curious and creative. They believed in serving a greater good, so that, and they always believed in continuous improvement. Como no te preocupes, negrita, la próxima vez va a estar mejor. So that oftentimes as Latino creatives, and of course, we're not the first ones that just popped into the space, right? We're building on a continuum of work, trailblazing work, people that have walked this path so that we could be here realizing our artistic contributions to the world, right? But just kind of having that humility of knowing that we are building and constantly improving, and allowing ourselves to fail and grow and experiment. I think
NEYDA, I can very much identify with this, because parents and teachers are so important as models for us, and we're very lucky to find them on our way and to make them help us find our way. And Alex, could you please elaborate on this second question?
Well, the first one, I'll say, let me preface it by saying I've always idolized filmmakers. You know, they were my heroes growing up. And in particular, you know, I almost was drawn to insane filmmakers, you know, the Werner Herzogs, the Sam Raimis, the ones who will, you know, go head first into a production. But I think that has changed. In particular, in the past 5 or 6 years, what we've seen happen through the industry with the Me Too movement and kind of the shining a light on what you essentially have, you know, these monsters of mismanagement that you have in studios and in film production at these levels of authority. And, you know, it made me reevaluate the way I pursued my own art. You know, I wanted to create something safe for every artist that's coming to work on a film, and not being so blinded, so single-minded, so gung-ho about, you know, we're going to make art, it's going to be the greatest thing ever. You know, it could very well be a good piece of art, but I don't think anyone has to suffer for their art. So that definitely changed how I went at adversity, and not being so blinded to everything else.
Well, that's true about art, filmmaking, and life. You have to kind of flow sometimes instead of trying to do your own thing. And now, Bryan, could you elaborate on this second question?
No quiero, me cansé. No, I'm kidding. Yes, of course, my friend. So you know what? I used to have a lot of role models when I was a kid, like artists that I would look up to and people that would do a million things at the same time. It's like, if they can do it, I can do it. But I feel like right now, in the point that I am in my career, something that really motivates me is to see people that I've worked with in the past succeed. To see people that I've been surrounded with that started acting when I was already acting, like land a big role. That keeps me motivated, and it tells me that the dream is real, that I'm doing the right thing, that my big job's around the corner. But overall, I think my greatest inspiration is God. I'm a film believer, and everything is my everything. But when it comes to people, I would say my grandmother, Kobe Bryant, and Hugo Cebollero, which was a friend and a family member. And they all passed, and it all happened unexpectedly. It was all deaths that, you know, really marked me. And right now, it's what fuels me the most and what keeps me appreciating life to the fullest. When I'm running, I'm thinking about them and wanting to push forward.
Bryan, I promise you that
that's it.
Next week, I'll go see your picture in San Juan. And
yes,
we'll
sir.
chat
Yes, sir.
about it. And now, DANI, ADALIZ, could you please comment on that second question?
Yes. As far as inspiration and support goes, I've really just been so lucky. I think that I've been one of those people that's fortunate enough to like have support from all of my friends. Everyone in my life is so valuable to me and so loving and so creative and so talented and so good. If I can just like name even 5 names without going over time here, I would just name my best friend Ari, who I've been best friends with since I was 9, and we lived together for a while, but now I live with my boyfriend. But she's been such a great inspiration for me. My sisters, and also my grandmother from Puerto Rico, who recently passed. I feel you, Brian. I'm sorry about that. But her passing has inspired me to create more and make more rom-coms, which is what I'm doing, and also centering like people of color in those rom-coms and just like making something for us, you know, and doing something special for us. And I'm excited for that part of my journey and growing with that.
Thank you, Dani. And then we go on to our next question. It is hard to please everyone, but making choices that disappoint friends and loved ones can be particularly difficult. How do you explain your creative choices to your loved ones without compromising the vision that acts as the North Star for your art? That's a hard one. Please, NEYDA.
Yeah, so the first documentary I produced, Lucky, was a challenging piece because she's a non-traditional heroine. She comes from a generation of intergenerational poverty, a cycle of violence and abandonment. Her parents died. She was an orphan because of AIDS and the drug abuse in our community in the South Bronx. But because she was defiant, defiant queer girl, walking in her own power, and not like this humble victim, or these heroine journeys that they want to see, like from Harlem to Harvard. We always want to celebrate the exceptional, but how do we embrace the people that we're leaving behind, on the margins, on the fringes, because society has a failure to care for the most vulnerable. So for that one, I consulted with my community. I consulted with scholars and academics, Cornel West and Tomás Ibarra Frausto, who helped me feel secure in my choice of sticking with the story. Because if as a community we can't see as well the brokenness, the people that we leave behind, and have the maturity to come together and rally around the side of justice and really question ourselves as society. So I felt it was a challenging piece, but it's a beautiful piece and it really pays off. And now, generations later, 10 years later, the film is almost 10 years old, the youth are really grateful that we made that film because they see themselves in that abandonment. Like right now with COVID and the economic fallout, the homelessness among LGBTQ queer youth is really high and no one is talking about it. And so this film squarely addresses issues that as a society and as a Latino community, we're beginning to embrace and really discuss more openly.
Thank you, NEYDA. Thank you for those commentaries. And it takes courage. And that's what this is all about. Believing in what you're doing and go through all the difficulties. Now, Alex Ramirez, will you please comment on this question?
Yeah, so I was having a conversation with a young filmmaker, and they were explaining that every project that they do, they want to imbue it with a message. They need to have a message. And, it kind of piqued my interest. I don't necessarily feel that way. I think what's really important is to examine people. And I bring that up because, these examinations that we do, these films that we make are about people. And, we're doing our best to tell the truth, what our truth is. We're doing our best to be empathetic. So, anyone who has any problem with any creative choices, I tell them, whatever is on the screen, that's coming from a place of nurture, coming from a place of empathy. It's coming from creative choices that I'm passionate enough to put out there because I think those stories need to be told, and we shouldn't censor that. you know, based on anyone's predilections or you know what they're used to. It's important for us to put things out there, even if it may be hard to watch, as long as it's truthful.
Thank you, Alex. And now we go back to Bryan. Care to comment, Bryan?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna keep this one a little more brief than the other ones, so you don't have to cut me off again. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right. So you know what? I feel like I haven't had this problem in my life because I've never really had to convince anyone that this is what I want to do, and I really have never had to explain myself as of why I'm pursuing acting. My whole family has been really supportive of me in this whole journey. Maybe my dad, when I was younger and first decided to do acting, wasn't supportive, but then I kept going and he started supporting me. So I feel like I've never had that problem where I had to explain my creative choices to my loved ones and compromise my vision or my dream, because I've always had that support. So I can't really answer that because I don't have that experience, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh, you can go on. I'm not cutting you at all. I really
playing
want to
with
know
you.
more of your opinions on this subject.
I can go on all day, man, but I think...
Oh, not necessarily to go all day, but just elaborate a little bit more. I know you have things to say.
Well, you know, I do this because I love it, and everyone in my family knows it. So I feel like I would disappoint my loved ones if I quit. So I feel like that's the pressure I have, not to quit. I don't have any pressure to prove that I'm doing the right thing for myself. I feel like everyone knows that and is supportive of that.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, DANI, ADALIZ, could you please comment?
I don't mean to keep stealing Bryan's answers, but same. Thank you, Bryan, for elaborating for us.
Hey,
we totally look like twins, though. We could totally play siblings in something. But I guess for me, like I said, I don't really have like an obstacle that was real because like it turns out my dad supported me the whole time. Like I went to a performing arts high school. Like he's been supportive, right? But one of the things that I am concerned about is this new project I'm working on that is very deep, and it's about my life with growing up with my mom, who is my Afro-Puerto Rican side, that I don't spend a lot of time with my mom. I spend a lot of time with her family, but I don't spend a lot of time with her because we have a very, very difficult and rough relationship. I'm currently not speaking to her right now. And she's always been supportive of my art, but I wanted to write about the experiences I had with her as a child, but not from a perspective that would hurt her necessarily. And I've been working very hard to like tell the story from the perspective of me as a child, but also from the perspective of like, you know, she's like just a person, you know, she's more than just a mother. She's a person with like obstacles and issues and like who has made life choices, you know, and they weren't always bad. But yeah, so that's been the most challenging thing right now. Like as far as like my North Star to art, that's something that I know will be good and profound. And I think people would appreciate because I don't think there's enough stuff about mother-daughters and like mental illness, and especially like Black mothers with like white passing daughters even, and like that dynamic of like the racial dynamics between us and like our life differences or how I see things. So that's something I've been working on. It's called Grand Canyon. And just if I can speak briefly about what it's about, it's basically about the time that she kidnapped me from after school care program and took me on a trip to the Grand Canyon to see her ex-boyfriend, Scott.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you know this from scratch that she was going there to see him, or did she surprise you and sold you a dream of going on to the Grand Canyon and having fun, and then you really find out it's about something else?
That part, the latter.
Oh no!
But guess who didn't know? Scott.
Oh my God!
Scott didn't know.
One person.
Or my dad. So that was also it. But it was honestly one of the funnest, most terrifying times of my life.
There you go.
Well, it's all very, very revealing. And now we go on to our next question. which is art is sometimes appreciated, sometimes disparaged, but always critiqued. Henri Matisse, the French artist, once said, creativity takes courage. As you think about your own critiques of your work, would you say you are your biggest fan, your biggest critic, or both? Please give us an example. And NEYDA, we go back to you.
Sure. So I'll borrow an idea that Alex so graciously put forward around beauty and truth. I think those are also part of my North Stars, like cultural significance, beauty, and truth. I think it's all of the above. I think it's a mixed bag. I think we create because I think there's a human need to create, whether it's commercially accepted or not. I think it's a shame that creativity has been so commodified. I think we should encourage everyone, regardless of age, to own their creativity. But yeah, I think there's a desire to continuously improve. I think there's a desire to meet the challenge, to rise to the challenge, to create something beautiful that will touch someone's soul, or emotionally that will touch someone's soul. I have been, for the most part, like an art doula as a producer. And Antonio, you know, having worked for so many decades with artists across genre, whether it's paintings, photography, playwrights, musicians, you know, I like to create the safe conditions to continuously interrogate our work and to make sure that it's as robust or as minimal as it needs to be for the scale of the project. And then increasingly, as I'm owning my own authorial voice and beginning to conduct my own directorial work, okay, you know, it's just, I think it's about the journey. I am not beholden to other measurements of success. I just want to have that integrity of significance and of really defining who my audience is and what it's for, and then to fill that void in the landscape so that future generations can tap into this and build on it. It's around aportando mi granito.
Actually, NEYDA, you know, this about being your own critique and your biggest fan, it has other sides to it, because sometimes you face, as an artist, you've been doing something that you're pleased with and that people are pleased with, but then all of a sudden you want to do something that is way out of what is supposed to be your range. And it takes a lot of courage to go that other way, in which you do not feel it's not your comfort zone at all. And that's one thing that I'd like for you all to relate to, because it's not easy to go away and do something that doesn't feel you're not so secure in it. And Alex, could you comment on this question and this extra question?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the hardest pills to swallow for any artist or filmmaker is not everything you do is going to be good. I mean, it's just one of those things. And, you know, you can grow and be in this industry for a while. And, you know, one project you make is a real banger. The next one stinks. And, you know, you kind of have to learn how to roll with the punches. But I actually think this question kind of changes if I'm working on a production. If I'm writing the production, you know, I in a way, I kind of become my biggest fan, because, I mean, you know, you need to be able to inspire yourself to keep working on that script, to keep developing ideas with that, because it's just going to be you know, with that script. If you're the one writing it, you need to be able to push yourself. I think that changes whenever I've shot the film and it's brought into editing. I become my harshest critic, but, you know, I do so constructively. And, you know, I find you know, you have to compromise in some things that, you know, kind of change during shooting, and you find ways to work with other sequences and scenes. But, you know, you have that critic there. And if you work with that critic for a while in your head, and you kind of learn to trust its judgment.
And also, Alex, listening to you, I think about our own process, and the way sometimes working in a collective fashion, which filmmaking is always a collective fashion, even though you director have the reins, how do you incorporate ideas from other people in the team, ideas that really will benefit the product, and that's sometimes it's not as easy as can be said. So, Brian, could you comment on this?
Yeah, I think you're on a great point right there, because as an artist you have to learn how to take critique. You have to learn how to not take everything personal and how to not burn your bridges. And it's really easy to burn bridges and take things personal when someone's telling you that you're not good enough or they want to see something in a different way. If you don't take it personal, then you can really see what the other person's seeing and make the adjustments and then work as a team. So if you can't do that and you take personal with everyone, all the critique that you get, then it's probably not the business for you. But I feel like I could be my biggest own fan, like on NEYDA was saying, that it changes, right? Or I can be my biggest critique, or it could be my mom, who always supports me because I doubt myself sometimes, but she never doubts me or my capabilities. Or it could be my aunt, that she's always cheering for me and always like saying, I know you can do this, I know you can do this, has never doubted me. So I would say they're my biggest fans, really, because I don't like my work. Sometimes I always think I can do better. And I think that this is another thing about artists. Like, we're always so critical of ourselves. So I thought I was my biggest critic until I really met my girlfriend that I've lived with for 7 years. And she couldn't lie to me, even if she wanted, even if she wanted to say, oh yeah, that was great. Her face would be like, oh, that was great. Yeah. So I think she's my biggest critic, and it helps me also explore different things. She'd be like, oh, that was a little too much. It was a little too extra. And she's usually on point on that. So I would say, yeah, I think she's my biggest critic.
Oh, thank you. Dani, you like to comment on this?
We love an honest girlfriend. Cheers to her.
Right?
Shout out to her. My boyfriend is also like very supportive but critical, because he's a scientist and he graduated from Caltech, so he's like super smart. And so he'll be like, "Why'd you make that choice? That was interesting. Why did that happen? That story doesn't make sense." I'm like, "Shut up." But no, jokes aside, he is very supportive. As far as criticisms go and like having to deal with myself, it ebbs and flows. Like, I recently wrapped on a short film that I was feeling pretty critical about, but everyone seems to really like and love, even though there were so many problems with it, but no one sees the problems with it. Everyone's just like, wow, that was incredible. So that usually makes me feel good. Luckily, I haven't had anybody sit in my face like, you suck. Maybe in private, but not to my face. Yeah, I think just kind of like circling back and to finish it up is I always want to do my best, and I care about my art, and I care about what I put out there, and I care about the people who are watching it. And I think as long as I think what's more important to me is that like people see that there was like love there or like effort there. You know what I mean? Like whether or not it was good or bad or whatever, it's like about like how it like ultimately made them feel. And like I kind of like gauge things based off of that. I don't know if that makes sense. But
it does.
That's just like
it does make sense. Insecurity is part of the parcel of an artist's work, but we overcome it. And then we get to the final question, which is, what advice can you offer the next generation of Latinx creatives on how they can thrive on their journey from developing a vision to being true to that vision, despite criticisms or obstacles in their way? NEYDA?
I think that it's important for young artists to really understand, first and foremost, that they can define what success means to them. Is it money? Is it fame? Is it social justice? Is it, what drives you, what motivates you will help you inform all of your decisions along the way as you're building your team or getting the funding or finding the right distribution vehicle or production partner. And yeah, there's that balance between your own emotional truth in your own center, as well as even for a painter, right? At some point, the painting isn't complete until it's in dialogue with the public, right? So let's create that space for reflection and co-creation, and we can own our own authorial voice, but at the same time, be open to the process, trust the community around you, and just explore. Because more importantly, we have to trust in the journey of the process and our own emotional and personal, professional, creative development. Because if we have that end goal in mind, like I want to be the biggest TikTok star, or I want to be the next, hit show on Netflix. If we're so fixated on the outcome, then we don't know what's in store for us that might be more enriching or more fulfilling, or something that might feel like a setback, but it's actually preparing us for a next and greater step. So have your eye on the prize, but be fluid and flexible and love yourself. And yeah, I want you to break.
Thank you. That's good advice to all of us. Thank you, NEYDA. And now, Alex, could you please elaborate?
Yeah, so you can have idols, you can have inspirations doing this, but when it comes down to it, you really have to be your own hero. I hope this doesn't sound too cynical, but even in this world that we're living in, the idea of having Latinx artists in the conversation in the mainstream is a relatively new thing. So in this, if you're working in this system, you kind of already have a few disadvantages. But being an artist is more than tackling disadvantage. It's about expression. It's about having that outlet and remembering why you want to do this. Even if you have obstacles all around you. Miles Davis wasn't the best because everyone wanted to listen to him. He was the best because it didn't matter if no one did.
Thank you, Alex. And Brian?
Yes. So I want to piggyback on what NEYDA said and something Alex said. I think NEYDA, you spoke before about enjoying the process and how important that is. So I feel like that basically summarizes a lot of it, because you got to learn how to enjoy the process and learn from every obstacle, right? Like the obstacle's the way. And Alex, I love that you say, remember your why. That's so important. And I hadn't thought of that. You got to have your why in your mind, because if you don't have your why, what's the point of it all? Like, that's great advice. But for me personally, I've been saying cliches all show, so I'm not going to stop now. So basically, don't quit. The dream is real. It happens. Enjoy the process. Like I said, learn how to not take rejection personal, like I said before, and learn how to press the reset button over and over again. Don't burn any bridges under any circumstance. Keep your stuff together. Basically, get your poop together, your stuff, get it together so that you can focus on the things that matter. Keep procrastination levels low. And yeah, that way, you can find the next mountain and then the next mountain, and you can always just keep rising.
Thank you. DANI, what's your advice?
Go to med school. No, just joking. I'm kidding.
Don't do this.
Don't, guys, give up now.
Forget about it.
No, they told me to say something inspiring. I was like, I'll try. I was like, was it honest or no? But honestly, somebody said something to me a long time ago, and hopefully it resonates with you. And if not, I'm sorry. But one of my really good friends from college was, he's in an indigo dyeing company now, and he's just really living his best life. Like, all he does is work with natural dyes and like works with plants. He's a total plant daddy, And I was feeling really stressed out one day, and then I was like, aren't you worried about like money or like all these things? He's like, look, if they take this away from me, I'll just do something else. And for some reason, that like sat with me so well because like we weren't talking about the same thing, but the way I interpreted that was, oh, if they try to take away like art from me, I'll just make it. You know what I mean? Or if they try to do this to me, like I'll just do something else, but within the same vein. So kind of piggybacking off of literally everyone, do it because it makes you happy. Do it because it's like any other job, like whether you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, like this is your job. This is something that you love. This is something that you're putting effort into. This is something that takes time. Like a lot of these people like Zendaya or like Haley Joel Osment or all these people that were like, wow, they're like so big in their 20s. Like, how did that happen? I was like, because they were literally child stars for like 15 years. So if you started when you were 20, you will be 35. And that's okay.
Thank you so much, Dani. And thank you all. Muchas gracias. Porque ha sido un diálogo, pues, and now I switched to Spanish automatically, but it's been very productive. I think we all learn from sharing experiences in art making. We all have fun memories and some very cruel ones, but we learn from all of them. Thank you so much. And now I'll just go on advertising our big event, the awards ceremony on Sunday, October 24th at 9:30 in Eastern Standard Time. And the show will be shown on HITN Go, cineyouthfest.org, and the Cine Youth Fest YouTube channel. Also, people can watch the finalists on the cineyouthfest.org site. And thank you all for the great response these panels have received, and thank for the other two moderators that made such a great job during this season. We're referring to Lorena Rusi and Jessie Fuentes. They have done wonderful job in showing us our way and making it so palatable and so rewarding to have this panels and heading towards the award ceremony where they will be hosts as well. And muchas gracias desde aquí, desde Puerto Rico, donde estoy. And thank you, and I'll leave you with our sponsors that make this all possible. Muchas gracias.
Thanks to our sponsors, we continue to have important conversations that educate and inspire the most valuable asset for a brighter future, the new generation of Latinx creatives. Visit cineyouthfest.org to find out more, because tú cuentas.